This is Remnant 2. We're here on Xbox Series S. Be sure to like the video. Subscribing is great as well. So this is a cooperative Dark Souls with guns experience, and we're going to be diving into what this Unreal Engine 5 focused and enabled title has to offer. So here on the Series S, it is a little bit more disappointing than what we're used to on the Series X, or, well, honestly, quite a bit more disappointing. So the Series S really doesn't seem to fully be able to handle the scope of this one. So what are we getting here? It's a temporal scaled like 900p up to 1080p at 30 FPS, and that's it. Yeah, and it doesn't always seem to hit 30 FPS very effectively either. Now, they have done some updates since the launch of the game. I neglected to take a look at this on the Series S for, I don't know, some reason. Not too sure why, but I did. And now I'm here taking a look at it, and yeah, like the full scope of the game is here. It still has that, you know, it's pretty visually impressive, but it is quite a bit rougher. It's a lot more jagged around the edges, and then obviously a shooter with a lower frame rate is very disappointing, because you expect higher frame rate experiences, especially when it comes to shooter games, and it can be a little bit more grueling to do a Dark Souls like thing without, you know, that more fluid level going on here. Yeah, these guys are just skipping these people talking here. So this is a game you can play alone or with others. It's really up to you and how, oh wow, how you want to kind of go at it, if that makes sense. Holy, yeah. So it is a lot more grueling by yourself. I recommend playing on like the lowest difficulty, especially if you are playing by yourself, because this game is quite brutal sometimes. This is like another run I've done. So you play the game, and then you like restart your campaign, you like re-roll it. This is funny. It's a very interesting change up. So like, yeah, you re-roll your campaign and you like redo it, and then it's like procedural. So it's different every time you go at it. But it's more like the set pieces are a little bit different. And yeah, it's intriguing from that perspective, because you can visit a few different areas. There's also like a free flowing area, if that makes sense. So you're able to like, you know, kind of go to this other world, which won't impact your regular campaign progress, and it's like another area to explore. And you can easily join others, you know, up to 3 players of cooperative action. And yeah, it's a pretty cool time. It's definitely rather intriguing. This is a fun little thing. I don't know if I did this the first time through, because there's like different areas where different things happen, and yeah, it's got a whole different vibe to it, because you go through like these jungles, and you go through like labyrinths, and you get like, you visit like a lot of differing locales and places, fighting a huge swath of enemies and lots of variation. It's actually impressive. And then your screens usually dip to the brim with like particle effects, and you know, I did mention it is a Souls game. Try to really get that across. Like, it is pretty hardcore. Oh wow. And then you kind of go to like these ruins, and then these are, wow, like it's not really, like, there's a lot of ruins, but you go to like these crystals, and you like interact with them, and that's how you kind of like refresh the world. That's how you kind of travel and stuff like that. It's your sort of home crystal that gets you going. And it does have like a little bit more of a ward vibe this time, as the ward is like a central marketplace. So you go to the marketplace in order to like upgrade your guns and modify your guns. Like, it's a role-playing game too. Like, you have traits, these cards, that are traits, and you improve them with like these tome skills you get to become more powerful, stronger, be able to take more like attacks. You have a few different weapon combos, and then side abilities you can unleash too. And there's just a host of like bosses and monsters and enemies and challenges. There's quite a lot to this game. It really does have a whole lot going on within it. And I highly, highly recommend playing this in co-op if you can, because it just really, really honestly feels just brutal at times if you're not playing with others. It could be a really, really rough experience, but that depends on your skill level too, because, you know, maybe some people are better off on the sort of difficulty thing, and then there's the whole aspect of, like, you can grind a bit to improve yourself, and that helps a little bit, but that only takes you so far. Like, for me, the big issues were just, like, especially at the launch, crippling performance. Especially when you're trying to do, like, big endgame bosses, where some of those situations were just so grindy. It's a little easier now that most people have, like, you know, that have been playing it, have their gear set up, they have their classes set up, you know, they're ready to go. It's a lot simpler for them. They can come in, they can kind of carry you. Maybe you'll carry some other people. Who's to say? But yeah, they've got like a really dynamic, in-depth system, because you modify the guns, you get kind of scrap pieces, you can like make kind of guns, buy guns. It's not just guns too, like you have melee weapons and swords, and then there's things such as like, how's this worse? You know, you've got all these rings that add other layers, and yeah, it really does kind of just go on and on and on in terms of depth and detail and content. You would be rather shocked at the amount of stuff. And there's items in the bottom left there you can adjust to and use, and yeah, a little bit of puzzles, nothing too in-depth. There was some that were a little kind of annoying due to the procedural element of them, but like, you know, you kind of go in, you shoot stuff, kill things, you try your best to survive in this post-apocalyptic world. It's actually funny, the opening of this one, very Last of Us like, and then you just go off into these weird fantasy realms and stuff, and yeah. Some of the puzzle solving actually can get really annoying too, especially some of the bosses. Like, there's like this labyrinth area with like moving cubes, and then there's all kinds of weird, quirky things. This game is just stuffed with things. I wonder if we get through this time, which would actually be funny. No, they're not going to let me through. The Red Throne. That's actually pretty funny. Because then we can veer off here and we can go into like a whole plant place. Like, it is different. Like, you go through it one time, you go through it another time, you join others. Some people just want to quest. There's like some side stuff too. And it is, like, as a UE5 game, it's kind of impressive, like the engine, the technology, but it just, I don't know, in my opinion, it doesn't really shine on the Series S because we're not achieving a good frame rate. If that makes sense. Like, you know, it loads well, it looks decently good, you know, it could look a lot worse, but like, it's kind of murky, and it just doesn't feel necessarily as great to play at a lower frame rate level. Because the Series X version has so many differing, you know, like, frame rates and stuff like that. It's a bit weird, actually. I guess we could show off the ward, where you kind of level up abilities and stuff and guns. But I think if you like the core gameplay loop of this one, you know, it is something you can get quite a bit of gameplay time out of. Because I think I'm at like 20 hours or something on this one. Which sounds maybe, I don't know, like not a lot. But for me, that's a good amount of time. Especially for something where it's kind of like really grueling and not something I necessarily wanted to spend a lot of time playing. But I seem to keep getting sort of stuck with it. There's the bone saw gun. Gotta improve the abilities. It really does make a difference when your weapons are tougher. Like, actually a huge difference. Oh, and I got an achievement too. Create a boss weapon, that's great. I think the characters, like, models and stuff like that don't look as visually impressive, and there's like a blurriness to it. It just feels like a lot less of a polished version. Like, I don't know if that's like a weird thing to say, but it doesn't feel like they're really pushing. Well, actually, it does kind of feel like they're pushing the Series S, but like, I feel like there's a little bit more work that could be done to give like a 60 FPS mode. But I guess the question really would be, how much of a sacrifice would they have to do to this to like actually give us a 60 FPS version of this game on the Series S? Because like, I've seen some pretty murky Series S 60 FPS stuff, and like this one is kind of on the realm of being murky, and it's, yeah, it's about right there, and I don't think that's like a great element. Here's the traits where you get to put your skill points in and stuff, and then you have like a second engram kind of thing going on, and supposed to be able to use differing things in order to like get extra tiers of stuff, and then you collect all these weird items and things, and they all do different, they're crafting materials and whatnot. You know what I'm talking about. There's lots going on in this. It's just kind of like they were like, okay, it looks decent, it runs on the Series S, sounds good, and then that's kind of it for this one. Which, again, kind of makes sense. I get it, you know, we get such a variety of things with this Xbox console. Sometimes super, super impressive, other times, sometimes really bad, and like, as I said, they have been updating this one, they have been improving the performance. You know, it's, you can only do so much with this console too, right? Like, it is definitely a hardware limited sort of thing for this generation. And it's only gonna get worse as the gen goes on. Honestly, at least that's kind of how I feel about it sometimes. I'm just kind of like, ugh. I don't know, I hope that's not the case. I hope we get many, many years of great looking, performing Series S games, but I also just kind of look at what this engine, which is supposed to be the engine fueling the vast majority of things kind of going forward, and I'm kind of like, it's gonna be pretty rough on the Series S side of things in some situations. I think you also kind of sign up for that too when you go for this console, right? Like, you kind of, I think you should know what to expect if you go in and grab it and stuff. You know, like, it's a nice little console, it's cozy, it's good. But I feel like all my review videos that go up for games while playing on Series S is just kind of talking about it being like, oh, for the thing, it's not too bad. And kind of funny. I don't know. It's just like weird how it drifts off into that every single time almost. And it's not even on purpose. It's just kind of like a natural part of the conversation. Because I play it on the Series X, and then I basically like enjoy like a downgraded experience to see the games on the Series S, and that's really what it is. But I do defend the Series S. You know, you'll definitely see that where I talk about, like, it's a good little console. It's just like, yeah, something like this just sort of shows. I think it's a little out of its league in some situations. I don't know. I'd love to see a 60 FPS mode on this game. I really genuinely would. But I'm just wondering how much of a bop down in the already pretty murky low resolution we'd have to go to actually achieve that. It'd be like something like less than 500p or something, and it'd be like, yeah, what are you even looking at? Because this one, it can get like really hectic with a lot of particle effects, and that's where kind of a little bit of the performance buckling happens. And then, like, if you were to make it murkier, just to kind of get that extra little bit of, well, I mean, doubling the frame rate, I don't know what the kind of limit is for folks, really. Which is the thing. Ugh. Really gotta balance, man, the reloading takes forever on this. Really gotta balance out your guns versus reloading versus health. This gun did get a really nice upgrade though, those extra, I'm actually feeling the extra shots kind of things. But yeah, just to wrap it back around, I highly, highly recommend that if you do venture into this game, keep your expectations in check for the quality on this, on this platform for the Series S. Make sure you are prepared for like the difficulty, like I give it more than a fair warning, right? Where it's kind of like, be ready for some bosses that are just absolutely brutal on you. But play it in co-op if you can. It's more than bearable. It's actually a little bit of fun at times when you're playing with others. And yeah, it's kind of cool. Like, I didn't think I'd necessarily be diving back into this one so soon, but there's a great excuse obviously attached to the reasoning why we're taking a look at it again. But yeah, I don't mind just running around these places, kind of taking in the scenery and stuff. Like, they're pretty detailed, full of life. They feel like really nice locales. It's just kind of like a lot fuzzier and sort of stencilly outlined with lower jaggedy edges at times on the Series S. But yeah, kind of nice looking place. I love showcasing this area in particular because I feel like this best displays Unreal Engine 5 stuff, kind of, if that makes sense. Like the quality of geometry mixed with like flora and plants, and there's the sci-fi vibe, and you got these like cool looking creatures running around attacking you and stuff. Works really well. Like there's quite a few areas in this game, and I just always kind of come back to this one in particular for these presentations, just because it works, looks cool, lighting wise, everything like that. It's like you could like barely tell the details though. Probably looks way better on YouTube. I have no idea. Because there's a difference between you viewing something and me seeing it in action and that, and yeah. This is kind of murky. Like, at least I can tell the difference between stuff. That would be a real problem if you actually couldn't see the differentiated details between like enemies in that environment. That would be a bit of a nightmare. But yeah, they've got some neat stuff going on for this one. It is a pretty popular experience. A lot of people like this one. I don't necessarily love the whole Souls genre, and I know this one is a little bit more action-y, and some would say easier going. I don't know. It's kind of frustrating sometimes with all the deaths and the craze here, especially with how brutal it can be by yourself. I think a lot of people overlook that. It's like, playing by yourself in this one, unless you're like really dedicated to the grind, to the leveling and stuff like that, it could be hard. And it is, I think with the updates, a little bit easier going. Not promising a super smooth casual time by any means, but they have done some improvements to this one. They have balanced some stuff, and it's definitely going to be something they support in the long term. Like the first game, which I'm coming off of just playing on the Series S right before this, they made good improvements over that one, and they did long, lengthy support for that, in terms of adding like DLC and extra content, and yeah, this is basically the the gist of that context. It's just like, yeah, this is an improvement over their first iteration. They loved and supported that game. It was successful, and I think this one is mirroring that sort of success and that sort of scale, and I would imagine we'll have a healthy lifespan on this one. And I would also imagine, since the scale of this one is designed in a way that, like, they're gonna add other areas, but I think they'll also probably gear up for a follow-up at some point, because this has been doing really well for them, and kind of a series where I don't think you necessarily ever really have to end it either. You can kind of just keep it going. Not like the narrative or whatever is like, stuck in a certain frame. Like this, you're climbing through like portals to other worlds, and it just kind of keeps the opportunities open for you to kind of limitlessly go over the weird vine or rot and all that stuff. Wherever that goes, wherever you want to put that, you can go there too with it, right? I mean, you do get to clean some of that aspect up, but there's always ways to come up with new twists and weird things to have. And yeah, I don't know, it'd be interesting taking a look at the third one, because it's just kind of like, the brutal beatings I've taken covering these two is like, yeah. It's easier upon reflection, almost. Like when you're not like seriously having to work through stuff, where it's like it's a little bit more easier going to kind of sit here, showcase it, talk about it. But yeah, in actuality, it could just be exhausting to play and just like emotionally traumatizing. That's this whole genre for me most of the time.